Many Christians such as Aaron K. 1994, UK Christian 28, and Sir Atheist DRF think that their belief that Jesus' miracles were valid, his historicity was true, and that he was a real person carry weight and logical credence. They also give off the impression that atheists such as Swanerd and Jetpack Ninja Dinosaur don't have any grounds to dismiss their Jesus beliefs, at least not out of hand or without cited argumentation. The fact of the matter is, atheists such as Swanerd and Jetpack Ninja Dinosaur are totally justified in dismissing the story of Jesus Christ, or at least his supposed divinity, out of hand, and do not have to provide logical argumentation for one simple reason. One of the most important reasons why every atheist is justified in dismissing the Jesus Christ story out of hand, or at the very least the supernatural historicity and the miraculous historicity of the Jesus Christ story, is because the entire story appears to be based on nothing more than hearsay. Let's read a couple of excerpts by Jim Walker on this very issue. He writes, "Amazingly, the question of an actual historical Jesus rarely confronts the religious believer. The power of faith has so forcefully driven the minds of most believers, and even apologetic scholars, that the question of reliable evidence gets obscured by tradition, religious subterfuge, and outrageous claims. The following gives a brief outlook about the claims of a historical Jesus and why the evidence the Christians present us cannot serve as justification for reliable evidence for a historical Jesus. All claims of Jesus derive from hearsay accounts. No one has the slightest physical evidence to support a historical Jesus. No artifacts, dwellings, works of carpentry, or self-written manuscripts. All claims about Jesus derive from his writings of other people. There occurs no contemporary Roman record that shows Pontius Pilate executing a man named Jesus. Devastating to historians, there occurs not a single contemporary writing that mentions Jesus. All documents about Jesus got written well after the life of the alleged Jesus from either unknown authors, people who had never met an earthly Jesus, or from fraudulent, mythical, or allegorical writings. Although one can argue that many of these writings come from fraud or interpolations, I will use the information and dates to show that even if these sources did not come from interpolations, they could still not serve as reliable evidence for a historical Jesus, simply because all sources derive from hearsay accounts. Hearsay means information derived from other people rather than on a witness's own knowledge. Courts of law do not generally allow hearsay as testimony, and nor dishonest modern scholarship. Hearsay provides no proof or good evidence, and therefore we should dismiss it. Let's go up here and get another interpretation of hearsay from Wiki Answers. The question is, why is hearsay evidence not generally admissible in court? And the answer was, hearsay is secondhand information that a witness only heard about from someone else but did not see or hear themselves. Hearsay is not admissible in court because it's not trustworthy, as well as because of constitutional rights, such as the right to confront one's accusers. However, there are so many exceptions to this general rule that oftentimes hearsay can be admitted. Now I will go to a second sub-point from this main one about hearsay, about why the hearsay of the Jesus Christ story is not admissible. And this will come from Diddums 222 to a comment he made to Aaron K. 1994. Let's continue our online research in substantiating why every atheist is justified in dismissing the Jesus Christ story out of hand, especially the supernatural historicity and the miraculous historicity. Here I am at bandoli.no, and I wanted to read this very powerful article on why a historical Jesus never existed. In bold it says, there is no contemporary historical record of any kind of Jesus. No written Roman, Greek, or Jewish sources from this time apart from the Gospels know of any historical Jesus or Christ. The name Christ is mentioned in some later texts, Tacitus, Suetonius, Pliny, but then merely as the name of the idol of the Christians' worship. We don't even know who the writers of the Gospels were, and don't have the original manuscripts themselves either. We just have later copies of copies of copies of copies of copies of the assumed lost originals, and with each copy of the copyist, the copyist usually felt free to alter details or rewrite whole parts of the manuscript. In red bold, it says, "We usually don't trust dubious anonymous sources as evidence for anything, do we?" All the divine aspects of the Jesus figure are stolen from earlier similar dying and resurrected God-men such as Dionysus, Osiris, Hercules, Attis, Mithra, Horus, Zarathustra, and others. Actually, there are few, if any, things about Jesus that are original at all. Jesus is just a Jewish version of this popular mythic savior character in the mystery religions of antiquity. See the similarities here. All the teachings of Jesus are borrowed from older sources. For example, from the teachings of Buddha. Many of Jesus' teachings are almost word for word identical with some of Buddha's sayings 400 years earlier, according to this website. The so-called Golden Rule can be found in several earlier pagan Greek and Jewish texts. The famous Sermon on the Mount was never held by Jesus, of course, since he never existed, but also because it was actually first produced in the 2nd century AD by Christian priests, a symbol from what they assumed were sayings of Jesus in different other texts. The birthday of Jesus is, of course, unknown. Not even the year of his miraculous birth is known. The church just stole the already popular date of the 25th December, which in antiquity was an immensely popular celebration of the birth of the sun god Mithra, the light of the world. More on the origin of Christmas, see thee here. The story of Jesus was originally an allegorical story based partly on the Jewish Exodus myth and Joshua/Jesus ben Nun, successor of Moses, the Jewish Messiah myth, and the widespread pagan myth of the dying and resurrected God-man Dionysus Osiris. Later, uneducated Christians in Rome, people without the insight and understanding of the deeper meaning of the text, started to take these allegorical stories for their face value, and literally Christianity as we know it was born.